welcome to my first Star Trek Online Beginner's Guide video. In these videos, I hope to lay down some basics that I hope will be easy to understand and enjoyable to watch. I intend to cover information that may be available in other videos, as well as a few things that I know are not mentioned anywhere, even in the official wiki. I will ask for your patience during these videos, as I am new to making videos like this, and have no real idea what I'm doing. Thanks! To start off with, we'll go through some common terms and phrases that I will be using through these videos. First, captain or character. This is the person that you made when you started the game. This is you in Star Trek Online. Next, BOF, or bridge officer. These are the NPC characters that make up your command crew, much like the characters in any of the television shows. If you were Captain Picard, for example, your BOFs, or bridge officers, would include Data, Geordi, Riker, Dr. Crusher, Worf, and the rest of our favorite regulars on the show. Next, DOF, or duty officer. These are all the rest of the small characters and crew that make up your ship. Usually we only see them maybe a handful of times in the episodes. Barclay would also be a DOF, as would Sarika Vulcan. Next, slot. Slots, as with most MMOs, and most RPGs I guess, are the little boxes where you place the equipment and, in some cases, skills, traits, and other things that you equip to make them actively available for use on your character, ship, or other parts of the game. Next, power, or activated ability. These are the abilities that you have to push a button generally to make them activate, to use them in the game. Space. This is any place where you are controlling your starship, rather than your actual captain that you created. Ground. Ground is basically any time where you are in control of your captain, as I am now. Before we go into space powers and bridge officers and such, there's one final term I did forget to mention. Main menu. When I talk about the main menu, I mean pressing the options button to bring up this screen. This is your main menu. In here, there are various sections. Each section has a variety of subsections. This is how I will explain where we go within the menus, so to hopefully help you be able to follow along with where we're going and help you find the things as easily as I do. So, space powers. Where do we find them for changing them? How do we decide what goes there? How do we find new ones when we want them? Well, there's a few ways that we gain space powers. The basic way is actually from our bridge officers, or BOFs. Our BOFs have the ability to be placed and equipped into bridge officer stations. Each station will have a rank, which will determine the highest slot that can be accessed. All bridge officers have 4 powers, slots 1, 2, 3, and 4. We'll go over those and a little more now. First, we'll bring up the main menu, go down to skills, and into the crew stations subsection. Here, we'll find starship stations. These are the ship bridge consoles. You place and equip your bridge officers to these stations. Depending on the rank of the station, your character or BOF that is equipped there can then utilize their first, second, third, or fourth powers. Hitting X brings me into the various BOFs and their powers. As you can see here, the box is highlighted with a yellow border. Before we do anything else, I should inform you about the different classes. Your buffs, just like other players and yourself, all fit into one of three primary classes: tactical, engineering, or sciences. Each class is designated by a particular color. Tactical use red, engineering use yellow, and sciences use blue. As you can see, I have a tactical station here that has 2 slots, or 2 powers, that it can access, while over here, my engineering station here can access up to 4. The ranks and the associated rarity of power that can fit into these spaces are Ensign, Lieutenant, Lieutenant Commander, and Commander. So, in this example, I have an engineering station that is up to Commander rank, meaning that this engineering station can access all 4 of these powers. Now, the rarities of 4 powers that can go into these slots: common abilities will be in Ensign, uncommon, or green, will be Lieutenant, rare, or blue, will be Lieutenant Commander, and rare, or purple, will be in Commander. This helps us know how many of what variety and types of powers we can utilize while we're in space. So how do we change the powers that our bridge officers are using? Well, first, they have to already know them, but we'll cover that in a minute. We'll cover how to teach them in a minute. For now, what we'll do is we'll learn on how to change which is currently available. For example, here in the ensign slot of this tactical station, I have Elisa Flores, my tactical bridge officer, utilizing Torpedo Spread 1. If I decide I want to change it and have her start using Torpedo High Yield, I hit X to bring up the menu. This is a list of all abilities that she can learn. I then press X on the highlighted one, which is the ones she knows, to select it. Let's actually go over here to the ensign slot of this engineering station. Let's actually look at the tooltip, which is basically the detailed information about that ability. Notice that this tooltip here for the ability is the same as the description shown here. As you highlight abilities, they will show the tooltip for the one that is highlighted. But we'll talk more about that later. For now, let's look at the tooltip or explanation itself. In yellow text here, it shows the name of the ability. Underneath that, in white, it tells me the system that uses this ability, as well as a basic general description of it. Underneath that, in blue text, is the game mechanic information. And below that, in this small white text, is a listing of skills that will affect this ability. What skills do when you have them learned, as well as when you have various pieces of ship gear equipped that affect an ability or affect a skill. The stronger the skill, the more powerful all the abilities that share using that skill. We'll go more into skills and what they are later in this video. Next you'll be asking, but where do we get new abilities? How do we train our bridge officers to the abilities we want if they don't already have them? Well, there's a few ways to get them in the game. Crafting, rewards, purchasing them from various reputation vendors and such. But early in the game, your basic, most simple way to get them is to speak to this fellow. He's over in Earth Space Dock, over near the Admiral. Since you beam in here, you do have to run down the ramp, take a very sharp right, and then take either hall to the Admiral's desk. Instead of going into his office, come down the stairs and underneath the walkway. Let's talk to him now, and we'll learn how to purchase a skill of books and what he can do for us. Here in his store, he has a list of various abilities that he can teach. He teaches them by means of skill books that he sells you. He can teach space abilities or ground abilities. If you notice, there is tactical engineering as well as sciences. Further down are skill books, but those we won't go into today. These are for abilities you gain access to through your reputations, and that's more endgame stuff than beginners. So let's focus on the tactical, the engineering, and the science. If I wanted to teach one of my bridge officers one of these abilities, and note, the tooltip information on this side here does not show information on the abilities. You need to already know what you're looking for. To give you an example, I think I will pick up emergency powered engines, and I will teach it to one of my officers. Back to crew stations. Let's teach it over here to Zarva. As you can see, the skill has changed. Still has the grayed out log, but the background and the name of it have all lit it up and highlighted. It also says available to unlock in green text. This will only happen if the skill book is in your inventory. Since it is in my inventory, I will select it and OK to train it, and now she knows this ability. It is now available for me to select and have active. Next, we're going to go over ground powers. Ground powers are a bit different than space. Ground powers are not obtained from your bridge officers, although you can teach your bridge officers ground powers that they will then utilize when you bring them with you on away missions. Ground powers for you, however, are found in kit modules. To find where our kit powers is in our menu, we'll first open up the options menu as I have here. Next, we go to our captain, and if you look down here, we see I have 5 kit power slots. To change my kit powers, it really is as simple as bringing up what is equipable for the slot and just picking something. On a side note, if you want to change which powers your away team members are using and which bridge officers you're actually bringing with you for your away team, the main way to do so is in the crew stations in the skills. You just come down here to away team. You can change your away team members and their powers pretty much the same way as you do with the space powers. One of the main ways to obtain some of your first kit powers is to come here to Earth Space Dock, to requisitions. Speak with this lady here, and if you go down to requisition kits, you'll see that she has both modules and frames. Modules are the actual ground abilities and powers that you will utilize. Frames are a piece of equipment that will provide a passive buff for yourself. One thing to note is that you can only utilize modules for your class. If you're an engineer, you can use engineering modules. If you're a science officer, you can use science modules. And if you're a tactical officer, you can utilize tactical modules. Let's take a little time now and we'll go over skills. Bring up the main menu, skills, into captain skills. Your captain skills section is broken into 3 basic parts: space skills, ground skills, and traits. We'll cover traits in a little bit. Ground skills are a simpler version of the skills in general. There isn't too much to them that is different from the space skills. Space skills, however, are a bit more extensive. As you can see at the top, there's these 3 bars here: engineering, sciences, and tactical. These bars represent the number of skill points you have actually placed in the skill trees. If I go into here, as you can see, I'm highlighting sections of this bar. Also notice on the bar there's 2 different kinds of dots: a basic dot and then one with lightning bolts. We'll get to them in a minute. If we go down, we start highlighting sections of the skill tree. Now, I've been spending my skill points, so I have a bunch of this unlocked. But when you first start, most of these will still be locked up. As you spend a skill point, it unlocks the next section. When you spend enough skill points in one rank section, as I'm going through here, you can see this is the lieutenant section. As you spend enough skill points there, you'll unlock the next rank area, which generally also happens when you gain your new rank. One thing I haven't mentioned that you should probably be aware of is generally you will gain a new rank every 10 character levels. You also gain 1 skill point every level or so. So as you spend points in one of these trees, whether it's in engineering, science, or tactical, these bars up here will start filling up. As you fill a bar and come up to these dots, we'll call them nodes. As you open up and unlock these nodes, each node will unlock new sets of abilities. Now, as I reach this node and unlock it by putting skill points in the science tree, it allowed me to learn these abilities that I can then teach to my bridge officers. When I get to these nodes, the ones with the little lightning bolts, these ones are a bit different. When I reach it and unlock it, I don't get anything right away. I have to come in here and hit X, and then I will be given a choice between one of these 2 possible options. Now, as to where should I put my skill points? Well, that really depends on what you want to do and what kinds of ships you want to be playing on. Now, if you're like me, want to do engineering. Engineers focus a lot on being able to soak up tons of damage. We're not great at dishing it out, but we can take a beating. We're also good at helping repair hulls and keeping our friends alive. Cruisers work well with us, and together we make great space tanks. Now, if I want to deal out damage, a tactical officer doing the tactical tree and riding in an escort is a perfect job for that. The tactical tree has a lot of abilities that increase weapon damage and increase your ability to deal with to deal more damage in various ways, whether it's flat damage output or increased critical. Science officers are a little bit in between and also a little bit unique. Some of their best ways of dealing damage isn't directly with weapons. Some science powers, which can be enhanced by the right science ship, will deal with what's called exotic particle damage. Now, exotic damage is its own form of damage, and we'll go more into the different damage types when we talk about space combat in another video. For now, just know that space powers work a bit different than weapon damage. Science officers also get skills dealing with energy drain from enemy ships or doing energy drain to enemy ships and things of that nature. So if you like screwing around with your enemy, science is probably your forte. Well, we're almost done covering captains, so I think it's time for I think it's the last thing. The last thing we'll cover is traits. Bridge officers and captains can both have traits. However, you cannot choose or affect the traits of your bridge officers. You can change your own traits. To do that, we go to Skills, Captain Skills, and then come down here to Traits. Now, as you go through and get to later in the game, you'll unlock Starship traits, Space Reputation traits, Ground Reputation traits, and Active Reputation traits and abilities. We're not going to go over that here. This is for beginners. So we're just going to go over the basic personal ground and personal space traits. One thing to keep in mind when you first create your character is the race you choose will determine what list of traits you can pick from. Aliens can generally pick from almost any trait. There are certain ones that are race specific that you will not have access to. Being an alien, as I recall, should also give you an extra trait slot to make up for not being able to access those special race-only traits. As you can see, I can highlight the various traits that I have access to right now. If I want to change one of these traits, I simply highlight it, press X, and it shows me a list of traits I can select from to place into this slot. If you see the tooltip, much as with skills and abilities, you'll see that there is a white text that is a generalization of what this trait does. In the blue text, it will give very specific game mechanic information about what the trait does. There are a variety of traits to choose from. So which ones you choose really depend on how you want to play. I do recommend going over all of them that you can access and taking a good look and picking ones that you think will really make you a better player. That's pretty much it for traits, so let's move on. One thing I did forget to mention earlier, but I'll mention it now. Where do you get the skill books for your bridge officer ground abilities? Well, from the same guy you get the space abilities from. You may have noticed when I was in those menus earlier that it did show ground and space skill books for sale. You just pretty much buy the ground ones the same way you buy the space ones, and you teach them to your bridge officers pretty much the same way. Well, that should pretty much cover it for your basic information about you as a captain. We'll move on to other things in the next vid. I didn't go over things like equipping your ship or equipping your character for ground missions. We'll go over things like that in videos dedicated to those specific topics. Well, that's about it for today. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something, and I hope you enjoyed it at least a little bit. And I hope to see you next time on STO for Cadets. Live long and prosper.